Good morning and welcome to Bridge GM's Green Industry Skills Fair as part of the Meet Your Future campaign. We've been delivering Meet Your Future now for just over 2 years, and since it began we've enabled over 50,000 young people in Greater Manchester to have conversations with employers, both in person before the pandemic began and more recently virtually. My name is Jane and I'm an enterprise coordinator at the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, and I'm pleased to welcome you today. Our ambition is to make Greater Manchester a world-leading green city region and to be zero carbon by 2038. Environment affects all aspects of our lives, so these ambitions mean there'll be significant changes to the way organisations run and also what jobs are available in the near future. 2038 may seem like a long way away, but everyone watching this morning in classrooms and assemblies, you'll be in work by then. Year 10 students that are watching, you'll be 31 years old. So today's event will give you the chance to hear from people who work in sustainability in a wide range of sectors and why it's important they are green. There are lots of different types of projects across Greater Manchester happening, focusing on the use of clean energy, sustainable materials. Our speakers today will also explain what jobs are in demand, what opportunities will arise in the future, and top tips for entering the workforce. We'll cover topics such as sustainability in the built environment, green skills in construction, environment and social action, the energy sector, and sustainable consumption. As well as the live interactive workshops that we've got planned, we also have a live broadcast happening with a series of different employers talking about their organisation in relation to green. That's it from me. I'd like to introduce our first speaker for the day, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham.
Thanks, Jane. Morning, everybody. Great to be with you. This is a really exciting event that's happening. So well done to Bridge GM and the Youth Combined Authority that I think have been behind this. It's a really good time to be discussing all of this. Now, I know many of you on this call this morning have had a tough time, to say the least, over the last sort of 14 months, 16 months. It's been tough for everybody. But I think we can now start to feel more hopeful about the future. And I think you should feel more hopeful about the future, because Greater Manchester has got some big plans in this area. And those plans could mean jobs for a lot of you on this conference this morning. And we want you to understand what's coming so that you can get ready for that and to take advantage of it. So here's what I think is the opportunity before your generation, let's say, you know, under 25s in Greater Manchester. You have the chance to lead the next industrial revolution. And that might sound like a really big claim to make, but it's the case that if you remember from your history lessons, those of you who've done the Industrial Revolution, the first one in your history lessons, Greater Manchester did lead the first global industrial revolution. You know, we were the place where cotton came from around the world to be turned into textiles. And we were the first place in the world to stop doing all that by hand and to make it mechanized, done by machines. So we've done it before. We've led an industrial revolution before. And I want us to lead what's called the fourth industrial revolution. So we've had 2 more waves of change since back then. And now what people call the fourth industrial revolution is to move towards a zero carbon society. And I want Greater Manchester to be the UK's leading green city region. So as Jane just said, going for fully zero carbon by 2038. What does that mean? What actually does that mean? It means massive changes to our transport system, for instance. So let's just give you an example. You know, obviously we've got buses running on dirty kind of diesel and petrol and all of that at the moment. I'm looking at an all electric transport system in Greater Manchester that's run on renewable energy. So, you know, that requires massive change, and there are jobs for people in making that change happen. If we want transport to run on renewable energy, we're going to have to make big changes to our energy systems as well, and have more wind, more solar energy around. Again, that is an opportunity for creating lots of jobs for people. But also, if we're going to hit 2038, we have to change buildings. So we have to make every single building in Greater Manchester zero carbon. And that will require like a massive programme of work over the next 17 years to train young people in the skills that they will need to move buildings from being, you know, quite inefficient at the moment as they are, to being completely zero carbon. So the thing is, and this is something, you know, I've lived all my life in the Northwest, and I don't think we've ever been in a position ever in my life to say to the generation that's coming through in the Northwest that if you train in a certain set of skills around the green economy, you have got the chance of having a good job for life. When I was growing up in the 1980s, the coal mines were closing and the mills were closing, and we were kind of struggling with all of that in the Wigan area where I was growing up. But it was true across all of Greater Manchester. We were in decline. And the thing about your era is we can grow again and we can lead change again. And you are the generation that's going to do that for us. No pressure, but that's what I want you to do. So we're kind of wanting you to open your eyes this morning to what's possible and what's out there. So, you know, if you take that issue of buildings and how, you know, changing people's houses, every house has to be changed in Greater Manchester to make it run on renewable energy, and to be well insulated so that it becomes zero carbon. Just think about how many jobs will be in that, thousands of good jobs. And if Greater Manchester goes faster on all of this, if we become the first place in the country to move to all electric transport, a decarbonised electricity grid, buildings all zero carbon, you will have skills then that you can take to other parts of the country when they catch up with Greater Manchester. So that's why I'm talking about this as potentially a job for life for you. So that's what today is all about, you know, opening up your mind to what might be possible. There's a massive conference happening in the UK later this year called the COP, which is a global conference. Heads of government, presidents, prime ministers from around the world are coming here to make commitments to speed up change on climate. And, you know, we want Greater Manchester to be very much in the spotlight at that conference later this year, so that, you know, we're ready to go with the plans that we're developing. So today is about kind of opening your eyes to all of that change. You know, just make no mistake about this. In the next decade, so from where you are today, over the next 10 years, you are going to see quite massive change around you in terms of the way people move in Greater Manchester, the way people live. We're going to see greener communities. We're going to see better public transport. And we're going to see big changes to people's buildings. You know, we want you to understand what skills you might be able to get to then access the opportunities that will come to be part of the workforce making those changes. So it is about learning, for instance, to give you a very practical example, green construction skills. So there's a new way that's come through of building houses. It's called passive house. It's not the old way of bricks and mortar, you know, bricklaying, where you get bricks and put cement on and, you know, all of that. These are homes that are constructed in a completely different way, what you call modular homes, where they're almost, you know, they're sheets of kind of wood and other materials, and then they're built in a way that makes them really cheap to run. So they lose no energy and they keep really warm. And yet that's a completely different way of building homes. So I'll be saying to the colleges in Greater Manchester, we need more training courses in that passive house construction. And therefore, if you get those skills, I think those skills will be in quite high demand as everyone moves towards more zero carbon home building. So that's the kind of change that's coming. And I just wanted to give you a practical example of that. And the great thing about all of this is it doesn't just create jobs. It also makes people's lives better by making their homes much cheaper. You know, they don't have to spend as much on their energy bills. So everybody benefits from this. So going green is not about, you know, being all virtuous and preaching about how great you are. It's actually about giving everybody a better life, better homes, better jobs, better transport. That's why I want Greater Manchester to be the leader of the fourth industrial revolution. I want all of those things for us first. And I want you to train up to get ready so we can move fast towards 2038. So it's a massive opportunity for your generation. Really glad that you've kind of tuned into this event today. and I hope you get a lot from it. And with that, I will hand back to Jane.
Thanks, Andy. We have some questions that have been submitted in advance by young people, which Sophie will take you through now. So, Sophie?
Fabulous, thanks Jane, and thanks for that overview, Andy. It was really insightful. Some of the questions we've got, I think I might have mentioned it to you earlier, slightly challenging, but they have come in from young people, so they're clearly on the minds of our young people in GM. So the first one is, what are you doing to encourage more young people to walk or cycle to school or college?
Yeah, I think there's a lot we need to do to change the way our roads work, because just painting white lines on the road hasn't worked very well, has it? I know I wouldn't fancy my kids cycling to school, well, but they're a bit older now. But you know, if you have like just white lines on the road that melt into a 6-lane junction, well, which parent's gonna feel confident about that? So we are building the biggest segregated cycling and walking network in the UK. It's called the B network. And it's leading to new cycling provision in every single borough in Greater Manchester. And the key is, Sophie, it's segregated from the traffic. And I think that's the key thing that gives parents confidence for young people to cycle alone, you know, when it's not mixed in with the road traffic. So that's what we're doing. We've also got a bike hire scheme landing later this year. So, you know, like other cities have, where you can just, you know, just use your card or whatever and tap in and have a bike. It'll be in the city centre and kind of Media City, those kind of areas to begin with, but hopefully we want to expand it around Greater Manchester. So that's a couple of things that we're doing.
Brilliant, thank you. I love the idea of it being segregated, so you can feel like you're really confident road user and you're not sharing that space with cars, lorries, etc. I think it's a brilliant addition. So just following on from that, having to think about the Metrolink, and I know I'm a Metrolink user, I absolutely love it. Doesn't quite go to where I live in Stockport, but and I think a lot of other people are saying that Metrolink doesn't quite go everywhere across Greater Manchester. So what are you doing to make public transport more attractive in areas that don't have the tram? You've mentioned the kind of electric and the transport system, renewable energy, and obviously the buses, but it'd be great if you could expand a little bit on that.
Yeah, so I would love to be able to expand the tram to Stockport, Bolton. I've talked about Middleton as well, and we are working on those expansion plans. But obviously it takes time to deliver all of that. Metrolink is brilliant, and here's how I think we can open it up to more people more quickly, Sophie. And it's about changing the buses. And this is the big thing that I'm going to be most focused on in the next 3 years. So I've been re-elected recently. I've got a 3-year term. So I'm going to kind of really use that term to change the way buses work in Greater Manchester. At the moment, the bus companies can decide where they go and they decide what they charge. And we can't kind of take over, if you like, because that's the way it's been done for 30 or more years. But we are going to change that, and we're planning to take control of our bus system so that rather than it competing with the tram, as the buses are currently doing, we can make it deliver people to the tram, if that makes sense. So, you know, the buses might do a sort of more circular route, integrating with a tram stop, and actually the journey will be ticketed as one journey, if that makes sense. So people jump off the bus and then get on the tram. That's what we want to do, Sophie. So the big change at the moment is if you were to catch a bus in Greater Manchester and then jump on a tram, you'd pay twice as a new customer. And what we want to do is have, you know, as I say, all electric buses running on renewable energy like Metrolink, but it working together with Metrolink rather than competing with it. And it also has then a kind of payment system that makes it more affordable for people to catch public transport in that way. It's a massive change, but it's actually one that Greater Manchester desperately needs, because at the moment, car is king. Car is just often the cheapest option for people, and as long as that is the case, we will not be going in the right direction on our climate objectives. We've got to make public transport the easiest and the cheapest way of getting around, and I'm really on with that at the moment.
That sounds great. I think you've mentioned the Industrial Revolution and the fourth revolution, and I think this really obviously ties into that. It's changing the habits of people, and it's something that can only happen over, a period of time, but that will have a lasting impact on the way that we use our transport system. Sounds incredible. We've mentioned a lot around 2038, which terrifyingly is only 17 years away, but sounds like it's the future. The kind of commitments to making GM net zero by that date are kind of commitments are sooner than the commitments from Liverpool City region and West Midlands, but we know that scientists are saying that it may still not be enough, even if we get to that point. So why is it that we have committed to 2038?
It's because we think it's the fastest we can go on the resources we've got. There's no point in me promising something that we just couldn't deliver, so it's got to be realistic. If we got more funding from the government, we could potentially go faster, but we want at least a credible plan to go fast. And 2038 is backed by scientists at the University of Manchester, so we know we can do it. But it does require us, actually, Sophie, to go fastest now in the next 5 years. The change has to happen really quickly. And that's what this big meeting in Glasgow later this year, this heads of state meeting, will be all about. Can we accelerate our plans? So, we are ready to do that, and we're ready to play our part. But it is linked to skills. If I've not got trained young people in those new construction skills I was talking about before, or people who are trained to work on the energy grid to make that zero carbon, that is one of the biggest risks to even 2038. That's a big risk. And if I'm absolutely honest with everybody on this call this morning, I don't think we have fully woken up to this yet in the skills system. And we need this conversation, because we need our colleges that you'll all be thinking about, where you go to beyond school. We need them to start putting on more courses that are about these type of skills, so that we gear up Greater Manchester to rise to this challenge. And it's not just about green skills. Obviously, digital skills are going to be important as well here, because the more that we kind of make our residents digitally skilled, there is also if you digitalize society, that also helps get you towards a zero carbon society. I think we've all been doing more of these Zoom calls over the last year, and obviously that saves on travel, doesn't it? So it is about becoming sort of digitally skilled, but also got those green skills as well. My mission is to make Greater Manchester the UK's leading city region for digital and the UK's leading city region for green. And I think the more that young people buy into that vision, the more we'll be setting this place up for the future. The North will take over the country, the world. We'll be the leaders once again, and I think we all want a bit of that, don't we? We all want to sort of put the South back in their place. So if you can buy into that, then get yourself trained up and get yourself ready to become the new digital and green leader in not just the UK but around the world.
Love it. What a way to start a Wednesday morning. Let's fire up those Greater Mancunians, get them involved in green skills. Speaking of which, we have the Greater Manchester Apprenticeship and Careers Service, GMACS, and we've got lots of different information on there about the growing sectors across Greater Manchester, the skills needed to get into those sectors. So I would encourage any young people, teachers, parents, carers to have a look at GMACS. We're updating it all the time in terms of live videos from employers as well, and this Q&A and these sessions from today will also be on there, so please take a look. I've just got one final question, and you mentioned Zoom meetings and the kind of the less travel that people are doing. So can I ask what you're personally kind of going to be doing? Will you be continuing to use remote working after the pandemic to reduce your own travel and carbon emissions?
Yeah, I'm not going to fully work from home. I think a bit of both is needed. You have to have face-to-face meetings still, Sophie. But I was just talking to my wife at the weekend about maybe not buying another car after my old Vauxhall has kind of given up the ghost. And I'm seriously thinking about that now. I did, and I want some credit for this, I did start biking in to Manchester from Leigh last year after the end of the first lockdown. That's not bad going, is it? But it was doable, and I loved it as well. So I have made some changes myself. I do get to train a lot these days. As long as when we improve transport, Sophie, it will just make it possible for people to change, won't it? I don't think it is that easy for people to change at the moment because it's not good enough. But as that B network takes shape and as buses get more affordable and more linked to the trams, then we'll help people to make changes. So yeah, can I just say something about GMACS? I'm really pleased you mentioned it. I created GMACS to be the sort of parallel system to UCAS. So UCAS, if you go into university, everyone knows what that is and everyone knows how to use it. GMACS is the sort of Greater Manchester alternative for work-related opportunity. Because I think for young people today growing up, it's hard to understand where the opportunities are. But as you just said, Sophie, GMACS is like one portal, isn't it? One place to go for all of the developments in work, all of the opportunities within work. And we hope that's making it easier for you. And the more that you buy into it as young people and use GMACS, the more that employers will say, oh, right, there's young people looking at this, we'll put more stuff on it and the whole thing will get bigger and better for you. So I would encourage you all to go to GMACS. And just lastly from me, just to say massive thanks to Jane and Sophie and everybody for arranging this, but also thanks to all of you for taking part in your schools as well and your colleges for supporting it. Because the reason I'm on this call this morning is I really passionately feel this is something we've got to get much more serious about, because I want really good jobs for all of you, and there are good jobs to be had the quicker we go on all of this. So, you know, I had a busy morning. You may have heard me talking my usual stuff on breakfast television this morning in various places, but I really was keen to sort of carve out the time to come and speak to you, because this is about your future. It's about the future of Greater Manchester. It is about not allowing us to be an area that gets neglected, but actually an area that's growing, that's leading in the future. And we've got that opportunity, and let's grab it with both hands. So brilliant. Thanks everybody for being a part of this today.
Amazing. Thank you so much to you for taking the time and for talking to hundreds of young people that have dialed in from across Greater Manchester schools and colleges this morning. The session will be available as a recording as well, and we'll make sure that those links are sent out to you. But just as a reminder, we've got a packed agenda for you today, and have a look at our Instagram account at your GMACS and Twitter as well to see what else is coming up. But I think that's it from us this morning, and the only thing that's left for me to do is to, well, say thank you again, but to hand over to a video that we've got from Andrew Weston. So thanks all.